Could you see the slide?
Yes, we can.
Okay, right. I have already shared these schedules with you. So therefore, if this is not clear, it's not legible, please refer to your slides and then we can go through it. So this we are beginning today. This module is more a foundation on the gender equality and women's empowerment. What are the critical ones? So as Sandy has been saying, it's supplemental. So therefore, we expect that you would have gone through the module 1 that was released yesterday. So therefore, if there are any, after this session, if there are any clarification that you need, you can ask for it. So what is the structure of this course facilitation? It's a hybrid approach. So hybrid, this has been the current term that you find everywhere. So therefore, our training is also in hybrid. In the sense, there are two aspects. One is in terms of it is asynchronous because the study material is available and you can study it at your pace with a time frame, but you have your own time that you can see at your own time. So that's a larger part of it, which we expect that you would study before the session. The other one is the synchronous sessions, which are more interactive, and that is given through the Zoom sessions that we will have on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. So the synchronous is there are two types. One is the input session like today. So all Mondays we will spend on inputs on a module, on one module. So today we are talking about module 1. So this is input session on module 1. And this will be supplemented by 2 group discussions. The discussion sessions which are related to the input session on key elements to reinforce our own learning. So it's more, it could be either our own individual experience sharing or probably over a theme that the discussions session expects you to do it. So the discussion sessions are on Wednesdays and Thursdays, and the themes are already given at the time on Monday itself, along with the slides that you have. So although it is scheduled for an hour, most often it spills over. One is in terms of people joining, we may have to allow 5 minutes for people to join. And there are people who may ask questions. So it stretches up to 1.5 hours. So please be prepared in terms of that the total duration of the session each day will be 1.5 hours. So all sessions are guided by participation. So therefore, please participate actively, share your experiences, share your challenges, because that is how we learn from each other. So therefore, also in terms of people who are facilitating, it's an inspiration because your participation is an inspiration. So therefore, very humble request is please share any clarification that you seek, any doubts that you have, any dilemmas that you have on any of the content that is dealt with, so that we will be in a position to clarify that or deal with that or discuss with that. So having given that brief on the course facilitation, let's get into the today's thing in terms of gender equality and women's empowerment. So the first thing that we need to understand, gender equality is a human right and a social justice. Can someone say why we are saying social justice? Yes, Vera Ationa. Can you please tell from where you are?
I am from Kenya.
Okay.
I think when we talk about social justice, it
Yeah.
actually means that human beings,
Yeah.
gender is socially constructed. And so what gender equality, when it talks about social justice, is about navigating the social aspects of gender constructs.
Okay. Thank you, Vera. Yes, Cynthia?
When you talk about gender equality
Yeah.
as a human right, I am going to talk from the religious point of view. As a Christian, I know that we are made in the image of God. Male and female, he created them.
Yeah.
That is Genesis 1:26-27. And he gave the human person the crown of his creation, because if you follow Genesis, God spoke, it came into being. But when he created the human person, there was a change. He made us divine as well as human, and fulfilled when Jesus came to our earth in human form. Everything we do as human beings is social justice, which means if he made them male and female, none greater than the other, it presupposes that the human person he gave to take care of the earth, be it male or female, but it is us, human beings, who have created, I don't know what to call it, structures that give inequality. But if you take it from the basis of the human person, it is a matter of right that anyone born into this world, whether he's male or female, is a human being. So that's what I understand from this statement.
Thank you, Cynthia, for those inputs. Thank you, Vera. Anyone else? You want. Because there are two aspects to what Vera and Cynthia has said. When I said it is a human rights and social justice, human rights are built on certain principles. One of the things very key is in terms of equality and non-discrimination. So therefore, when we are talking about gender equality, it means that it's a human rights is that everyone is equal and there must be no discrimination by any standard, any use, either by sex or by color, race, anything. So there is no discrimination. In terms of social justice, as I think the Cynthia was mentioning, there are two things that the social justice says, that everyone deserves equal economic, political, and social rights and opportunities. So therefore, there is no difference. Everyone need to get fairness in terms of treating, in terms of the opportunities that are available and the resources that are available. So therefore, while the human rights talk about equality and non-discrimination, social justice talks about that the fairness in terms of the way the opportunities are available and the resources are distributed and the privileges that are available within the society. So therefore, it talks about, it's not only human right, it's because being like, I think what Cynthia was talking about, we are all human beings. So the human beings, you could be men, you can be woman, you can be transgender, you can be any other thing. But as a human being, you have got every right to be treated equally without any discrimination. And then there should be a fairness in the way that the opportunities are available and the resources are distributed. Yes, Teresa? Teresa, you like to?
I wanted to also comment on the social justice, that is access to equal rights, resources and opportunities.
Okay.
that I wanted to also talk about that social justice
Thank you, Teresa.
when we talk of
yeah.
gender equality.
Yeah. Where are you from, Teresa?
From Botswana.
Botswana. So how do you call it? Is a Teresa?
Yes.
Is that correct?
It's correct.
Okay.
Yes, it's correct, sir.
Okay, so therefore, I think these are two critical ones that we need to keep in mind when we talk about gender equality. It's a human right and it is a social justice. Human right in terms of equality and non-discrimination. Social justice in terms of fairness, in terms of the opportunities, resources, and privileges that one has got in the society. So moving in terms of what are the principles of social justice. So we have looked in terms of, there are 5 areas that we look at. One is in terms of access to resources. Equity, we will come to in terms of what is equity and equality. Participation, diversity, and human rights. Diversity is, as I was saying, in terms of we have 120 people today. So there are so many perspectives that we bring into the table. So the diversity is the value, and that we need to cherish that value because each one of us bring the diversity. So therefore, when we talk about social justice, all human beings they have got their own specific skills, specific perspective, specific expertise that each of us bring in. So therefore, we need to respect that diversity. So therefore, when we talk about social justice, is in terms of that everyone must be treated equally, and everyone's ideas, everyone's perspective must be given due importance. So you cannot ignore anyone's idea because it comes from a particular section, a particular gender, and a particular race. So these 5 principles we need to are the part of social justice. So therefore, these are what we are expecting when we see that there is gender equality in the society. Let's get into the key gender concepts. We would have heard about these 3 concepts which are mostly used interchangeably: gender, sex, and gender identity. Can someone say what difference they have? Are they the same? Do you think they are the same, or do you think there is a difference? If so, what is that difference? Yes, Namibia, Martha. Martha, you are from Namibia?
Yes, I'm from Namibia.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Yes, thank you very much for the opportunity, and hello everyone. Sex is biological differences. Men and women have different biological, how should I call it?
Characters.
Body parts.
Okay.
Body parts.
Okay.
Body parts. Okay. While gender is the roles that are assigned to women and men, boys and girls in a given society. Gender identity, I think, is how the people identify themselves, how they feel, whether they feel they are men or they are male. So that's how I look at the 3.
Okay. Thank you, Martha. Presentina?
Yes, good afternoon.
Afternoon, good morning.
I would like to go over sex as biological.
Yeah.
I understand that sex is a characteristic that a person is born with.
Yeah.
However, it doesn't mean that a person can or assume that he or her is female or male because of their biological. Because there are many people who are born, for example, like female genitals,
Yeah.
but he assumes he likes, he feels better
Yeah.
when he behaves or dresses or whatever like a man.
Yeah.
So this is why
Yeah.
we say that sex does not determine
Yeah.
the gender.
Yeah.
Going to gender, I would say that I agree with the diagram. It says that gender is something constructed. It means there are a set of characteristics of ideas or values or rules that a certain society decides a man must behave like this in this society or in this place, and a woman would behave like this, and so on and so on. This is what I would like to say for now. Thank you.
Right. Thank you, Present. Where are you from, Presenter?
I'm from Mozambique. I'm
Okay.
speaking from Maputo, the capital.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Presenter. Yes. Vera?
I think she has, for me, she has defined gender properly, that is socially constructed, and sex also the biological attributes of a person. And for me, gender identity is just the innate and individual experience of gender, you know? Yeah.
Thank you, Vera. Ruth and Nancy. Jessica was also there, but I didn't. Ruth?
Yes, this is Ruth. I'm in Kisumu, Kenya.
Kenya, okay.
Yeah, it's an interesting topic to discuss.
Okay.
I would want to listen where we live the LGBTQ community on matters gender roles and gender concepts, especially right now we are aware that there is an LGBTQ person from that community who was recently brutally murdered. So as we cover this course also, I want to listen to where we place them, considering that it's still something that we don't accept in our community because of our traditions and because of how we are brought up.
Thank you, Ruth. Nansasi? Nansasi? Please go ahead. Obana?
Thank you, and good day. Yeah. I think the differences and the similarities have been said, but what I wanted to really say is to make a symbolic interpretation of the chart that we have used to present them. Yeah. That it shows the close relations and perhaps the somehow misinterpretation or confused interpretation of sex, gender, and gender identity. Yeah. That sometimes we fail to see or to make a distinction between what is gender and what is sex, and how do people feel about either their gender or how do people feel about their sex. Yeah. I just want to make that observation. Thank you.
Thank you, Obana. Where are you from, Obana?
From Botswana.
Okay. Cynthia?
Anyway, my own interpretation, sex and gender are the same. This word gender is a new vocabulary that the human person has developed to give, or would like to say, to excuse or to back up gender identity. A person is born, except in very rare cases that there's a medical malfunction, male or female, that is sex, and that is gender. Gender identity is now, because of society, because a child is born, what you call tabula rasa, nothing. The child starts sensing and imbibing depending on the environment. Let me give you an example. A child born in a very violent, toxic environment has a tendency to go in that direction. Another child born in another environment, loving, might be of the same nationality or whatever of parents, different behavior. I'm Nigerian by birth. I grew up in Nigeria. A Nigerian by birth that grows up in the US won't behave the same way. So this gender identity is, for me, society influenced. It's really society influenced.
Yeah.
I am male, I am female. That's my own explanation.
Yeah,
Thank
thank you. Thank you, Cynthia. Nantaba and Nansasi. Nantaba?
To me, I
Yeah.
think gender
Yeah.
is like socially contributed to the roles and behaviors of someone. And then sex is, yes, biological attributes in human. However, and when I look at gender identity, that is this, like it's designated at birth.
Yeah.
However, it also looks at like what you want to be how you want to identify yourself, either male or female.
Yeah.
Looking at the new community that
Yeah.
is what?
Yeah.
That has come in. And okay, it's basically looking at what you want to identify as. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Nantaba. Where are you from, Nantaba?
Uganda.
Uganda. Okay. And Nancy? Yes, Nancy. Can you go ahead, Nancy, and then read me? Nancy, you raised your hand. Can you share what your comments? Okay, read me. Shirley?
Thank you, Damo.
Yeah.
I think it would be important to also note that a person's gender identity is internal and an individual experience, and also that it's not constant, that it changes, meaning a person's gender identity may be the same or different from what they were assigned at birth, just to differentiate gender identity from sex.
Where are you from, Shirley?
Pardon?
Where are you from, Shirley?
Kenya. Kenya.
Yeah, I think we had very good reflection on these three. What we need to look at in terms of the basic is a sex, and I will come back to in terms of we have been used to apply sex more with a binary perspective, saying either you are a male or a female. But we find that there are different versions of that, which we kept ignoring it and neglecting it. So these are all related to individuals, human beings, but they are different. While I think many of us have said sex is biological, by and large, they are not changeable, by and large. Although now you find the inventions, medical inventions, you can change your biological sex from one to another, but by and large, it's what you are born with. While I think most of us have looked in terms of what the society has constructed in terms of how you need to be, and that is what the gender is all about. I think what we need to look at is in terms of gender is changeable. I think Shirley was emphasizing it more on the gender identity, but gender is changeable and it can change by time and space. The third one, which I think there are different views, but I would like to emphasize, is in terms of it is individual's own psychological experience. So therefore you may have a particular genital, but you may feel differently. So therefore that's where we all these that's where we challenge the binary concept of gender or sex. So you find that there are transgender, you have LGBT, you have different versions of it. So therefore it is more in terms how each individual feels and experience about himself. So it doesn't relate to his own biology or physiology. So these are different, but they're all related. They're all related to how an individual in society is being treated. So that's the thing that we keep on getting these three things unless we are clear in terms of sex, gender, and gender identity. They are not same. They are related to each other. So therefore, when we look at in terms of sex and gender identity, we need to see that sex is more in terms of looking at from the genital part of it, whereas gender is in terms of how the society has constructed. Whereas gender identity is how individual is perceiving. So these are three different ones, but looking at on individual. So let's move to how this moving from these three concepts, we need to look at in terms of what are the foundations, what are the blocks, building blocks for gender inequality. How is gender inequality is produced? Yes.
The presentation is not very clear on the screen. Yeah. I don't know whether it's only mine. Cannot be read.
Okay. Anyone else? Can you please see your slide? I mean, this is a constant problem, but
the slides are not clear.
Maybe because of
it's very faint.
Yeah.
I posted the slide deck in chat so you can open the presentation and go through it on your own computer as we go along.
Okay. Yeah, I think probably one is in terms of putting everything in one slide, because these are all related concepts, and then maybe the words are small, maybe it's difficult. So can you access your slides, please? Either in the WhatsApp or in the chat that Sandy has just now posted. Can you access it? Yeah? Yes, Rosa?
Yes, they are accessible.
Yeah. Accessible. Okay. So therefore, let's look at in terms of what we see as gender inequality and discrimination. There is a foundation for that. There are structural reasons. So we need to look at in terms, unless we are clear in terms of what are the things that contribute to that. So therefore, we need to look at in terms, there are three key aspects that produce and reproduce and perpetuate gender inequality or discrimination. One is the gender norms. Gender norms are the socially established division of work, what men should do and what women should do, and what men can access or what women can access in terms of resources. And so it is in terms of a norm that govern how the work need to be distributed in the society, what privileges one can have or not have. Whereas gender roles are roles that are ascribed for each sex. So how each must conduct and act. So what roles the woman can make, what roles the man should perform. Both the gender norms and gender roles, they define the division of labor in the society in terms of who should do what. And if one does different to other, it's treated abnormal and there are consequences to that. The third building block is the gender relations, how one need to relate to each other. So therefore, in terms of how the relationship is between man and a woman, between elder and the younger, between father and son. So there are, in terms of, these are all determined by the power. How power is distributed gives in terms of how it defines the status of individual. So therefore, these are three building blocks: gender norms, gender roles, which define the division of labor, and then gender relations, which determines the social status. See, these get perpetuated through a process of socialization. A socialization in terms of culture, in terms of family. So you see that you send messages, keep messages, reinforce messages that these gender norms, rules, and relations are sustained from generation to generation. And this is a socialization process, each one of us, and then that the culture plays a very significant role in that. And please don't take me wrong in terms of institutions, particularly the religious institutions, play a key role in terms of this socialization process. The original transcripts could be different, but the way the religious institutions perform their function is also a process of socialization. Because you learn in terms of not only from your family and community, but also you learn from your religion in terms of how you should conduct yourself. As a result, in terms of, there are three things that happen because of this socialization. One, the way you think, the way you feel, and the way you act. These are translated into the gender prejudices, gender stereotypes, and gender discrimination. The gender prejudices is the way that you think about, the way you feel about other people, either it is in terms of sex or in terms of people coming from a different regions. If there are people who are coming from slums, you feel about them differently than people who are coming from other. Stereotypes in terms of you already decide what should they do. A stereotypical way of living. We see that all women should be doing either teachers or nurses, or they should be caring. So it's a stereotypical way of looking at it. And how do we act them? So you discriminate them. So therefore, the socialization process reflects in terms of the way we feel, that is the prejudices that we carry, the stereotypes that we apply, the way we think about others, and the discrimination that we show, the way that we act, we convert it, because all these feelings and thinkings have to be translated to action. And that action is in terms of discrimination. So you exclude people or you include people based on the way that you think and then feel about other people, including gender. So therefore this, when we look at it in terms of gender inequality, we need to understand, we need to unpack in terms of what are the structural causes. So therefore it goes down in terms of the three building blocks in terms of gender norms, roles, and relations that define the division of labor and then the social status. And the process through which this this is translated into action in terms of the way the prejudices, the stereotypes, and the discrimination that we apply. So therefore, we need to look at in terms of their gender norms are prescriptions of what is acceptable or what is not acceptable, what is appropriate or what is not appropriate. So it is in terms of who could voice their voice, who cannot voice their voice, or whose voice you can consider or whose voice you cannot consider. Because this is where in terms of participation counts, who can participate and how he can participate. If there is an issue that is coming out, how representative is that? So therefore, if you look at in terms of all, in spite of the democratic participatory processes, in terms of who is participating and how is it is governing, this includes in terms of that the particular in terms of what is acceptable, condoning, like for example, in terms of the violence against women. So it is an acceptable form. So if there is a violence by a husband, see others, the society think that it is normal, it is acceptable. So therefore, gender norms are prescriptions, whereas gender roles are in terms of the feminine, masculine. Will come in terms of what does it mean in terms of gender relations. So unless we are clear in terms of what are causing this and what is the process through which this is being translated from one to another, we will not be able to look at it. So if you look at in terms of the how does this happen? As I was saying, is in terms of gender binary, because we have been seeing that there are only two categories. One, there is a male and female. So therefore, since recently, anything outside this is treated as abnormal, deviant. So therefore, both in terms of laws as well as societal processes, they have been excluded from the mainstream. So, but there are more than two. That's what we need to look at in terms. The second one, the binary talks about what is right and what is wrong for a male or a female. So in terms of anything outside this two sex is devalued, and gender is often used in terms of whether you are a male, female, so interchangeably it is being used. How does this happen? If you look at in terms of, as I said before, is in terms of feminine and masculine roles. So there are two in terms of ambitious, authoritative, courage, independence, leadership, assertive. These are all masculine traits, whereas ambiguous, subordinative, fear, dependence, these are all feminine traits. These are traits. These are not related to sex. These are in terms of looking in terms of how the different traits, characteristic in the society can be defined. But unfortunately, what the society has done is all these masculine traits are assigned to males. Now all these female traits are assigned to female. So by nature, these roles are not male or female, but they are masculine and feminine. Let's move, before we move to this concept, is there anything that you would like to share in terms of, because we talked about what are the concepts in gender equality. We looked in terms of sex, gender, and gender identity. And we looked in terms of how this gender inequality is produced and reproduced through the building blocks of gender norms, roles, and relations through a process of socialization, reflecting in the way we we feel, that is gender prejudices, the way we think, gender stereotypes, and the way we act in terms of gender discrimination. Then we looked in terms of gender as a binary concept, which is not accept, which is creating this gender inequality. And we are now looking in terms of the feminine and masculine traits and characteristics, which are unfortunately assigned as roles for women and men. Before we go to the next concept, is there anyone, any clarifications required? Yes, Obona. Please go ahead, Obona.
Thank you very much for the presentation, and I think it's quite enlightening. It's just an observation that perhaps I would need you to weigh your weight on again.
Yeah.
Just when does it become a gender role, and when does it become a stereotype thinking, especially where a perception denies someone an opportunity? I mean, when we talk about stereotypes, it's a negative aspect of the stereotype thinking is when it limits. But again, when gender role where we say women belong to a home, men belong to work, and the whole intent is to deny the other the opportunity. Now, when do you make the distinction between those? Yeah, thanks.
Thank you, Obana. I'll get back in terms of Nelly and Muthoni.
Thank you so much. So far, it has been very interesting. I'm just curious about one element.
Yeah.
I was thinking the main problem is normally gender norms. So I'm wondering why we are classifying as gender norms, gender roles, gender relations, because I can see gender norms really do determine the roles and the relations. Thank you, and over.
Thank you, Nelly. Where are you from, Nelly?
From Kenya.
Okay. Muthoni and Cynthia, and then I'll clarify what.
Okay, for me, it's just a comment.
Yeah.
I wanted to say it's interesting how this gender roles begin at a very young age. Like when a mother is expectant and they go shopping, they begin by, when they get to know the gender of the baby, or rather the sex, whether it's a girl or a boy, they begin buying things that are either pink or blue.
Yeah.
Then when the baby comes, for example, if it's a girl, they're given dolls. If it's a boy, they're allowed to play with cars.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's very socially constructed.
Yeah.
And I think it's something that maybe we need, as we continue, we just need to think through on how we even raise our children to understand gender. Yeah.
Thank you, Muthoni. Where are you from, Muthoni?
Yeah, I'm from Kenya.
Okay. Cynthia?
The last two speakers, I think they have said something I wanted to say. Somehow, we are all guilty of these stereotypes. Even as you are making the presentation, you used masculine traits, feminine traits. Yeah. Who defined what is masculine? Who defined what is feminine? Yeah. When you meet a young girl who is maybe physically strong, all of us label her male. Yeah. And unfortunately, she grows up imbibing it and starts behaving like a boy. Yeah. But why can't I be physically strong and still express my femininity? Yeah. So for me, it's very interesting. Thank you for this opportunity, because I'm now keen into, let's say, active mode in my brain so that I don't fall into that danger also when I'm serving people of these stereotypes. You must act like a girl. You must act like a boy. Keep quiet. A girl should chew in the head. You know, those things. Because at the end of the day, we produce these, young men and women, when they grow into adulthood, what society has given them is what they give back to society. And we all complain. So that's what I just wanted to add.
Thank you,
For me,
thank you.
I'm going into serious active mode in my brain. Thank you.
Thank you, Cynthia. Nami, Martha, and then we will have to move. Yeah.
Thank you, Prof. Maybe as Prof is explaining further, just to understand what is sexuality, because this terminology keep on coming in the write-up when we are working with the development partners, and then it comes sexuality, and as governments, we're a bit apprehensive of the word sexuality because it may not be acceptable. The content thereof may not be acceptable in our setups and so on. Just to explain what is sexuality.
Yeah.
Thank you, Prof.
Okay. Okay. Let's move forward. I think let me clarify some of this. One, I think, Obana, it's in terms of when does a gender role become a gender stereotype? I think what we need to look at, that's I think very clearly in terms of what the gender roles. One aspect that comes is in terms of that the leadership can be performed by men, and women should only be the followers. So therefore, when does it affect in terms of when you would like to look at in terms of any recruitment, anywhere, even if you look at in terms of the way the elections take place, so how many women can really contest and win? Because the societal norm, societal role for women is that men can only be the leaders. So women cannot be the leaders. So therefore, when you vote, you use the stereotype saying that the woman cannot be the leaders. So, or when you are recruiting for a manager's position, for a leadership position, you look at it in terms of what advantage, what disadvantages that the woman could bring in. So the stereotype is in terms of that this particular role can only be done by a particular sex. So that is how you apply. So how do you apply? Because the way you have seen, you have been socialized to believe that this is what should continue. This is what is acceptable. If you recruit a person other than that, then you think that there are all mistakes will come. So therefore, you already in terms of you are inhibited by the consequences of not following that. So you look at in terms of what this person should do. Suppose, for example, if you have people coming from slums, if you are looking in terms of recruitment, your own impression towards that person is different to the other person. So you think that people coming from the slums will have a particular character, particular behavior, and so you put them in that box. The stereotype is in terms of putting people into that boxes. And unfortunately, in this gender stereotype, it becomes in terms of the person, in the sex of the person. So you put particular sex of the person into a particular box that they can do or not do. The second one is in terms of the overlapping in terms of norms, roles, and relations. It's a very good point, Vera. I think we need to look at, they are not mutually exclusive, but they all, because gender norms also determine your relationship between men and women. But we need to look at in terms of these three things act together. For your own analysis, we are trying to see whether you can look at in terms, norm is in terms of how that is assigned, defined, where the roles are what each one should do, how you apply those norms and rules in deciding the relationships. And where you need to look at in terms of what comes in terms of relationship is the power that you exercise. That the power you exercise will also come from the norms and rules. Because why do we say that a particular No, roles are actually defined in terms of what men should do and what women should do, what privileges the men can have, what privileges the woman could have. So therefore the privileges are a source of power. We'll come to in terms of understanding power in our module 3, but that the whole gender inequality is determined by the power distribution between individuals, whether it could be male or female, or it could be other gender, transgender, LGBT. It's all in terms of how individuals exercise power, have power, determine what type of status that you can enjoy. And the third one, I think what Othoni was saying is in terms of, these are all in terms of how we look at in terms of, it could be a norm where we are looking in terms of what boys should play, what girls should play, or what boys should wear, or what girls should wear. So therefore, in terms, now, how does this happen? This norm gets translated through our own parenting. Do we consciously or unconsciously look at in terms of probably buy dolls for our daughters and then maybe cars for our sons? Because we are made to believe that this is how it should be. This is how they should conduct. If the girl, I have a girl should conduct in this way, whereas the boy should conduct in this way. That's where I think the change must start at individual level. As you have been saying, do we believe that these are all socially constructed? I think that's where I take the Cynthia's point. Do we see who decided this? Do we continue this or do we change? And how does that change come? The change cannot come from outside. The change has to come from within. And that's to start from us. Let's move forward. This concept of, I said in terms of one of the principles of social justice is equity, equitable justice. So what is the difference between equality and equity? Can someone share what do you think is the difference between equality and equity? Yes, Millicent?
Okay, equality. It is okay as a social sorry.
Yeah.
As a social justice, it is the distribution of opportunities, resources, and privileges fairly. But that is equality.
Yeah.
But equity, it is the fairness in distribution of opportunities, resources, and the privileges according to the needs of both genders.
Yeah. Thank you, Millicent. That was a very apt one. Millicent, where are you from?
I'm from Kenya.
Okay. Yes, Cynthia?
For me, equality means giving each person the same opportunity.
Yeah.
Equity is a step ahead or with equality, recognizing now that yes, the opportunities are the same, but recognizing the giftedness of each individual and placing the individual because of a particular giftedness, while not discriminating against the other. That is how I look at equity and equity.
Yeah.
Equity builds on equality. There is no discrimination, but maybe this person is very good in this, and you give that person that role or the work or whatever, and this other person is good in this other one. So that's how I understand the two. Thank you.
I'm very much in like your comment in terms of that equity builds on the equality. That's a very, very strong point, Cynthia. Theresia,
I would say equality is where people are given the same opportunities or resources to achieve the same results.
Yeah.
And equity is where you recognize that people are different,
Yeah.
but you make sure that you give each and every person resources that will suit them for them to achieve to have the same result at the end.
Very good. Thank you, Teresa. Very well said. Selecto. Siletso.
Right. Thank you very much, sir. I think Teresa has just alluded to what I wanted to share. Okay. For me, like other colleagues have said, I see equality as providing equal opportunity to all. But like they said, equity is making deliberate effort to facilitate, facilitate fairness in accessing the available resources.
Yeah.
So that's how I differentiate the two, that the other one, you have to make an effort that people that are concerned have access to the available resources. Thank you.
Thanks, Selita. So where are you from, Selita?
I'm from Botswana. Thank you.
See, I think what the point that you take is in terms of you need to do an extra effort for an equity. I think that's a very well said. Safiana.
Good afternoon.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, my English is not good, but I can try to explain my thing. Equality. I think that is we give the same opportunity to the people, but we don't respect the difference. But equity is we respect the social justice. We give the opportunity to the people, but we respect that the people is the difference. Yeah, no pass much.
Thanks, Safiana. Where are you from, Safiana?
I'm from Mozambique.
Mozambique, okay. No, I think you said very well, Safiana. Yeah, you need to look at in terms of equities from a social justice point of view. Jessica?
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah.
My name is Jessica Ndubi from Kenya.
Okay.
And my view is that gender equality, that is equality is, as you said, a human right, whereby you give each and every person access to, let's say, resources and opportunities without any discrimination. As you said, it's a social justice.
Yeah.
So every other person has gotten access to opportunities, to resources, whether it is in the political, economic, or social arena. You are giving them a level playing ground.
Yeah.
But when it comes to equity, we are supposed to be fair.
Yeah.
Taking cognizance of the fact that all of us are not equal.
Yeah.
We are able differently.
Yeah.
We have different strengths.
Yeah.
We have different weaknesses.
Yeah.
So as to come up with anything, you tailor-made according to the needs, to the concerns, and to the issues of the various gender categories.
Yeah.
So when it comes to equity, you are being fair.
Okay. Yeah.
Fairness in whatever you do while taking cognizance of the fact that we are not equal. But when it comes to equality, it's like you are giving them a level playing ground. Whether you are a man, whether you are a woman, whether you are able differently, whether you are a young girl and boy, you are giving them an equal opportunity.
Yeah.
And I tend to believe equity is better because we are tailor-made, we are coming up with tailor-made things for the various social groups, for the various gender categories, because you have various gender categories that like men, women, youth, the elderly, people able differently. So as you're coming up with the interventions, they should be tailor-made to the various gender categories, and that is what we call equity, being fair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very good, Jessica. That was good. Yeah. That's where I think the vulnerabilities come. I mean, how do we take in terms of groups who are vulnerable to different situations? How do you consider them when you are giving equal opportunity? Anna?
Thank you very much for the opportunity. I want to add that thank you for everybody who has given the answers. I believe we are all correct and is quite insightful. I want to add that equality and equity, actually we need both of them, because in a society we need to have fairness and justice to allow everyone, each member of the society, to achieve their fullest potential. Because equity ensures that everybody is given the same opportunity, while equity strives to give everyone what they need. And I like your picture very much because it actually explains it very well. Like you can see on the equity, everybody has been given equal stands. They can reach the fruits are far, but they're standing on the same equal level. They've been given that same opportunity. But with the equity picture there, everybody has been given the opportunity that is suitable for their own needs. So if I'm disabled and I'm given the same opportunity as the person who is not disabled, that will not be fair. So thank you very much. I think that's...
Where are you from, Anna?
I'm from Botswana.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Anna. That was very good. We were looking in terms of the picture that is given. Cynthia, Redmi, and Hanan, and then we need to move off. Cynthia?
It's just a quick one. I agree with Anna.
Okay.
If we go on equality without equity, we'll still discriminate. If we focus only on equity, there's also the risk of discrimination. The diversity of our giftedness and the diversity of who we are, it's what can help balance both equality and equity. The picture really, really is good. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Cynthia. Hanan?
Thank you for the opportunity. Hanan from Kenya. When I look at the picture, the diagram we have, equality, that defines to me equality is having equal access irrespective of the prevailing circumstance. Yes, but when it comes to equity, it means that the prevailing circumstance determines how someone accesses resources. Yeah.
I think this is very well said. I think, see, if you look at, compare both the things in terms of the first one, where resources are same, but opportunities are there. When the second one, the resources are redistributed depending upon the needs of each individual. So the individual could be woman, it could be disabled, it could be any other vulnerable position. So therefore, when you are offering opportunities, equal opportunities, how do you take into account that they are able to have access, equal access, by looking into the resources? That's where I think we need to look at what is the extra effort that we can bring in. So let's move forward. Thank you for your intervention. I think my purpose is served in terms of how do we look at the difference between equality and equity. There are two different concepts when it comes to the gender equality. Both are important, both are equally significant, but we need to look at it. We need to look at it in terms of what is the difference between them. While equality is looking in terms of opportunities, the equity talks in terms of redistribution of resources according to the needs of individuals. The next one is what we need to look at. when we talk about gender equality, what we are talking about is equality of opportunities as well as equality of benefits. It is not that you only provide opportunity, but we are also ensuring that the benefits that accrue due to these opportunities are also equal to both, to all people involved, whether it is in terms of men, women, or other gender. So we need to look at in terms of the distinction is in terms of the equality, equity, and substantive equality. Now let's move to the women's empowerment. What we have looked in terms of gender equality is, we looked in terms of gender equality from the point of the three concepts: gender, sex, and gender identity. Then we moved in terms of what is the process of gender inequality, what are the building blocks in terms of gender norms, roles, and relations, how do they translate through the socialization process in terms of gender prejudices, stereotypes, and discrimination. And we looked in terms of the gender binary, which looks at only in terms of two binaries and the challenges that we have. And then we looked in terms of the feminine and masculine traits that are unfortunately assigned to males and females, that is contributing to gender inequality. Then we looked in terms of the equality, equity, and substantive equality concepts. Let's move to the women's empowerment. There are three things that we need to keep, which are central when we talk about women's empowerment. One, when we are talking about empowerment, is that women gaining power and control. So therefore, wherever there is empowerment, we look in terms of that they are moving from powerlessness to power. So where they can have their own control over their own lives, whatever different spheres of life that they live. The second one we have been talking about, more particularly in terms of equities, in terms of how do we overcome the glass ceiling? How do we enable raising beyond that which the gender norms, roles, and relations determine the status of woman or other gender? So how do we challenge that? So women's empowerment should concern in terms of overcoming that glass ceiling and believing in the agency of women, that they can challenge, they can assert their own rights. So what perspective that we should have in terms of action for gender, against gender inequality? There are a few things that it must guide us. One is in terms of, as I have been saying, what are the building blocks for gender inequality? So therefore, we need to address the structural causes that produce. The structural causes are the institutions that maintain and perpetuate the gender norms, gender roles, and gender relations. The institutions are the norms that reinforce or condone a particular behavior and practice. Challenge the gender stereotype, the way we think, the way we feel, freedom from prejudices, how we feel about women and others, other gender, and overcoming the discrimination. How do we act to exclude them? So the way we think, feel, and we act is in terms of gender stereotypes, gender prejudices, and gender discrimination. The fifth one is, we have been saying more particularly in terms of equity, recognizing the differential level playing field. Centuries of oppression, centuries of subjugation put men, women, and other gender at different levels, different level playing field. So recognizing that, providing a positive discrimination to overcome that difference. Lastly, in terms of deconstructing the male strength to respect and collaboration rather than force on domination. This is for in terms of our own understanding of gender equality and women's empowerment. How do we convert that into an action? Is that we need to look at in terms of whether we are addressing the building blocks, the structural causes, whether we challenge the stereotypes, the prejudices and discrimination. Do we recognize differential level playing field and provide a positive affirmative action to overcome that? Do we consciously deconstruct that masculine and feminine binaries? As we have been saying in terms of, is a socially construction? So then can we deconstruct this so that it is not assigned to a particular sex or a particular gender? So any questions so far? Tamara? Yes, Tamara.
Yeah, thank you. It's very interesting. The word that you've used in the perspective of action against gender inequalities, the word positive discrimination. Yeah. It would be nice if that word is broken down.
Yeah.
Because from my understanding, discrimination itself is negative.
Yeah.
So what is it that exactly you mean when you say positive discrimination? Thank you.
Where are you from, Tamara?
Malawi.
Okay. Yeah, I will get back to you. I will clarify that. Cynthia, and then I will clarify.
I don't know whether we're on the same page, but for me, positive discrimination could be a scenario where you deliberately give a slot or 2 slots or 3 slots to those who are vulnerable to make sure that, let me use the word, their voice is heard. So for me, discrimination can be positive. It's like criticism.
Yeah.
It can be positive. It can be, this is how I understand, because I've often had to explain to people why I do what I call differential treatment.
Yeah.
That is balancing equality and equity so that no one is left behind. At the end of the day, I think what we are trying to achieve is nobody is left behind because of. Yeah. And that all, depending on their capability, are empowered to be able to, reach the full potential of what they can offer. Yeah. So positive discrimination means deliberately giving preference or differential treatment, so that those who are vulnerable will be able to access whatever it is. And that picture of equity really gives that a positive because her own stool is higher. You can say equality, make the same thing, but you won't reach the goal. So that's for me, is the differential level with positive discrimination. Thank you.
Thank you, Cynthia, for clarifying. I think, very well said. I think Tamara, then Martha. Tamara, is that clear what Cynthia said?
Yes, very clear. Thank you.
Okay, welcome. Okay, thank you. Martha?
Prof, just explaining in simple English, agents of women.
Yeah. Oh, agency of women. Okay. The agency of women is, I think I would re-emphasize what Cynthia has said, is in terms of, if you look at one of the examples is the reservation that you give. Or you say that only women are encouraged to apply. So you take an affirmative step to encourage a particular, knowing that they come from a vulnerable situation. And so therefore you meet out those things. I think that's one. The second one, I think what Martha was raising is the agency of people is believing in terms, there are 2 things. One, that I do for you. The second one is you do for yourself. I do for you is in terms of, is a benefactive attitude where we occupy a position where we think that we have all the answers, then we can make change for others. Whereas the second one is that they make changes for themselves. So therefore, if they are suffering with a violation, that they recognize that, they act on it, they assert, and they realize it. So agency is in terms of believing that their people are potential, they are capable of doing it. They only need probably some facilitation, some encouragement, some support, but they can do themselves. So it's a belief in people, belief in terms of trusting the ability, the confidence, the skills of people. That's the agency. Agency means that you believe in the potential, in the capacity of people to deal with that. Martha, is that clear?
Yeah, thank you, Prof. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Okay. So let's move in terms of, there are two themes for Wednesday and Thursday. Wednesday we'll be looking, because as I said, the key aspects of the building blocks of gender inequality and the gender concept. So what we would look at in terms of the gender norms, gender rules, and gender, it's very specific to individuals, because we are not hypothetical here. Each one of us are products of the socialization of these gender norms, rules, and relations. So therefore, it's more an introspection into our own socialization. And so request you to look at in terms of any norm, any role, any relation that you are experiencing in your own personal life, and reflect on it. So we would spend more time in terms, so that it's more in terms of not only we listen to what it is, but actually in terms of experiencing it and then debating it, so that we can gain more clarity.
I don't think I'll be able to make it.
Sorry?
Thank you.
Okay, yeah, we understand. Yeah, I'm talking about for all people. So therefore we will understand more in terms of what these building blocks are. On Thursday, we'll look at in terms of deconstructing the masculinity. So the other aspect that we were looking in terms of masculine and feminine. So therefore we look in terms of how leadership, particularly in terms of the role, authority, is can be deconstructed. Again, we are looking at from an individual point of view, your own experience in dealing with leadership and authority. So our request is that please look at your own self and share, so that we can debate on these two aspects on Wednesday and Thursday. So this is already available in the slides. The questions and the key questions are given for discussion guide, and then we'll meet on Wednesday and Thursday. So any quick feedback before we close?
Maybe I can just appreciate your time and commitment to the class. I'm enjoying the class.
Oh, thank you. What is your name? I couldn't get your name here.
Sorry, my name is Mary. I am from Kenya.
Okay. Thank you, Mary. Cynthia?
Just to say a very big thank you and thank you and thank you and thank you. This is just model one. I don't know what you have before, but it's exciting. Yeah. And I think this knowledge is really, really worth it. Yeah. And to make it free, God bless you.
Yeah. Thank you, Cynthia. We look forward to your participation as often as you could.
Yes, I will try.
Yeah.
Honest, I will really try.
Yeah. Go ahead, Senna.
Thank you, Ra, for the day one class. Kindly, I did not see the slides in the chat box. Can they be sent? Can Sandy send them to the WhatsApp group, maybe? So that we get the patterns.
It's in the WhatsApp group, Gertsana.
Is that so? I haven't seen it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I had sent it yesterday. It should be available.
All right, thank you.
Yeah. Teresa?
Thank you. I just wanted to say thank you for your time and for enlightening us on this topic. It's really an interesting topic and it makes us even aware, because this gender inequality, we do it unaware that we are also promoting it. So I think through these discussions, it makes us aware of some of these things. Thank you very much for that.
Thank you, Teresa. Lydia?
Mine is a question. Sorry for taking us back.
No issue. Please go ahead.
My question is mainly on the gender issue. The trans, the people who have both sexes, where do they fall under in this discussion?
They fall under the third other gender.
Okay.
Yeah, because other gender consists of many other categories. So therefore, that's why we said in terms of we need to treat every human being with their own gender identity. That's where the gender identity comes in terms of you can be either biologically one, but your identity may be different. That's where the all other gender in terms of the transgender, LGBT, lesbian, all those things will come.
Okay, thank you.
Lydia, where are you from, Lydia?
Lydia from Kenya.
Okay, Lydia. Okay, Redmi, Vivian, and Ketchlana, quick, and then we'll have to close.
Okay, thank you so much. I want to thank you for the wonderful class.
Okay.
Honestly, this was a very interesting class. I should appreciate. I was unable to come in because I was having network problem, but honestly, I appreciate.
Thank you, Redmi. Where are you from?
I'm Doreen from Malawi.
Okay. Redin.
Okay, this is Vivian from Kenya.
Yeah.
And I really appreciate you for your time for the class. It has been really interactive. We've learned a lot, and I'm looking forward to more classes to equip myself with this information that will be very much helpful in my life and for the people around me. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I think with Catalina, we'll close with that. Catalina. Vivian, you are from Kenya, no? Vivian? Catalina?
Yes, I'm from Kenya.
Yeah.
Vivian,
Catalina? Okay, thank you very much. It was wonderful. You have been very participative. I like very well the different views. I think, and particularly in terms of the way that you looked in terms of equality and equity. So thank you very much for all your participation, and we'll meet on Wednesday, same time. See you.
Bye.
Bye. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. See the wonderful.
Bye. Bye. Bye.